Hi everybody, welcome to Daily Space. I am Susie Murph, normally your producer, but also your Monday host. And welcome everybody, and I think that date is wrong on my slide. Oh well, I will fix that in a little bit. I got the pictures on there, I just forgot to put the date on there. That was funny. But hi everybody, welcome. Hopefully you guys had a good weekend. I'll go ahead and switch to the first slide. Hopefully y'all had a great weekend. I had a very busy weekend. I was out doing what is now going to be my second job because, you know, kids in college need kind of more than one job. And so I was at a sci-fi fantasy convention in Chattanooga selling game books at a booth. So that was a lot of fun. So what I will do in the future now is if I am at a convention on the weekends, which it's going to be a weekend job, I will let you know where I am. So if you're out there and you're going to that convention, you can come by and say hi. But you can see hair got repurpled. So that was a lot of fun and got lots of compliments on the hair. And I was rocking my CosmoQuest lanyard because both bosses don't mind if I do both jobs, which is super cool. So I did talk to some people about space and science and citizen science and all that kind of stuff in between trying to sell them Dungeon Crawl Classics. So that was a lot of fun. My personal Twitter, it's Susie M. Murph, but I'm not usually on there right now. Politics has chased me off Twitter a bit, but you can feel free to message me there if you want to or follow. I will try to put it on there now more often. If I'm going to be somewhere and do something, you guys can come by and say hi. That's a good point. I should do that. Yeah, at Susie M. Murph, got to announce when I'm at a con. I will do that. This weekend was my audition, basically, to see how good I would be at running a booth. And so we set up on Thursday, then we started selling on Friday, and by mid-afternoon Friday, my boss Brett had walked away and said, yeah, you're fine. I'm going to go look around the convention. And he had already left me by myself there, which was fine. That just told me, okay, I'm doing all right learning how to operate all this stuff. So yeah, it was a lot of fun. But yeah, I will keep all posted when I go to things. I'm going to be going to the Gamma trade show in March, which I'm pretty excited about with our friend Space Ranger Laura, I believe is her name on Twitch. She's one of our friends that was on the Hangout-a-thon, and she is a engineer, does all kinds of cool stuff at Goddard Space Center, and she also has a friendly neighborhood gaming store. And I'm going to be going with her to Gamma to buy stuff for her store. So that's kind of exciting. But I'll be gone for a week in second week in March. So be nice to Pamela and Annie that week because they're going to be doing everything and it's a little scary and stressful. But I'll be over there. So if any of you are going to Gamma, let me know. I would be delighted to see fans and say hi and let you know. And if I owe you stuff for CosmoQuest and you're at Gamma, I would be thrilled to bring it to you. So that's pretty cool. All right, y'all ready to get to some science? We have some cool stuff today. As you can see, we have some Mars stuff. So be sure to take a look. Gamma is going to be in Reno, Nevada. And it is a retail trade show, so it's like people who run game stores and stuff like that go there to buy the games from the publishers. So it's a little bit more of a professional convention, but if any of you fans are out there, I'd be delighted to say hi and meet up, be able to visit you in person. That's pretty cool. All right, let's get to some science. I will start my spiel. Today is the Daily Space for Monday, February 24th, 2020. And once again, I am your producer, Susie Murph, and I'm also your Monday host. And I am here to put science in your brain. So now I'm going to start reading this, so forgive me for not looking up. But the NASA slogan, failure is not an option, sometimes leads to the most heroic and silly results. Okay, once it led to silly results. And that once is the case of the InSight mission and its mole burrowing tool. So the last we saw our intrepid burrowing temperature gauge, scientists were trying to give it a helping hand, or shovel, but wedging it sideways in its hole. It was hoped that this would increase the friction between the mole and its hole and allow it to dig down into the surface of Mars. And you can see on the screen right there, you can see some of the images that they've got with the hole they're trying to get to and what they're trying to do. This didn't work, so they have a new plan now. The InSight mission will now push down on the mole while it hammers. And if you're wondering why they didn't do this first, the reason is actually pretty simple. If the mole succeeds in digging down, then the stationary shovel will no longer be putting any pressure on the mole, so they will need to alternate between hammering and moving the shovel back and forth, one tiny move at a time. And the thing is, the mole was originally designed to dig down about 5 meters or so, about 16 feet, and measure the temperature beneath Mars' surface as it goes. InSight's shovel can't push it all 5 meters. All it can do is push it down to the surface. It was originally thought that through a combination of friction and an internal hammering mechanism, the mole could drive itself downward. Unfortunately, a combination of the lack of friction and possibly an interfering rock have all worked to thwart this burrowing sensor. It can only be hoped that if the mole can dig itself beneath the surface completely, that maybe it will hit a better material to dig in. InSight, we're watching you, and we're laughing a little bit, but we're wishing you the best in your continued efforts to hide beneath the surface of the soil on Mars. And let me click over, there we go. From the surface of Mars, now we go to the surface of the Moon, where the Chang'e 4 and its Yutu-2 rover continue their exploration of the far side of the Moon. That's the Chinese mission in its rover. Geologically, this is a very different surface than what may have formed when a blob of material hit the Moon. That may have formed when a blob of material hit the Moon. Our Moon was formed when a Mars-sized object named Theia hit the proto-Earth. This collision splattered material into a cloud that over time coalesced into perhaps 3 different objects: our dense Earth, the main bulk of the Moon, and a third object that then splattered into what we now see as the far side of the Moon. Chang'e 4 and Yutu-2 are the first vehicles to explore this hemisphere in detail, and in the most recent set of images, we're seeing what appear to be rocks that are unlike any we've seen before. Scientists say they appear uneroded, which in the context of the Moon means they are less affected by the steady rain of micrometeors than the rocks we're used to. This implies that they're fairly fresh material, unlike what we've seen before. Exactly what this means is still to be determined, but according to Dan Moriarty, a NASA postdoc at Goddard, these rocks could have been revealed 10 to 100 million years ago or 1 to 2 billion years ago. It's really hard to say definitively. It's hard to age things on the Moon. At this point, we only have the low-resolution teaser images, but in the coming weeks, we should get the higher-resolution images that will reveal what kind of rocks these are. For instance, are they made of varied minerals stuck together in what's called a breccia, or are they more uniform in their composition, like a piece of crust material that was excavated by an asteroid impact? When those high-res images and their related science come out, we will bring them to you here on the Daily Space. Okay, before we close out, we have a couple of news notes. The first comes to us from CERN, where physicists have constructed an anti-hydrogen atom made of a positron and an antiproton. These antimatter atoms are being used to test a principle called charge parity time, which says that antimatter should behave exactly like regular matter. This means that if our universe were made of majority antimatter, all of the physics would work exactly the same. Working with antimatter isn't easy. Given the opportunity to interact with regular electrons and protons in regular atoms, these antimatter atoms will cease to exist as they convert into other particles through a burst of energy. The folks at CERN, though, are getting really good at containment. And they've recently determined that the energy levels of an excited antihydrogen atom are the same as they are in a regular hydrogen atom, including having tiny differences in energy that come from different spin states, as the electrons transition between energy levels. This slight difference, called the Lamb shift after its discoverer, is small, and it's the kind of subtle physics that the folks at CERN are one by one checking out as they look for antimatter to behave oddly. So far, antimatter is proving to be completely normal, if a little difficult to work with. Okay, our final note today is one we bring with a great deal of sadness. Today we learned that Katherine Johnson, the mathematician who calculated trajectories for so many of the early human space missions, has passed away at the age of 101. She has written an autobiography, and we're going to encourage all of you to read about the life of this woman, this black woman, who managed to become a leading mathematician at a time when public school wasn't even available in her town for her past grade 8. She's truly a role model for all of us. And that rounds out our show for today. Thank you all for watching. The Daily Space is written by Dr. Pamela Gay, Star Strider in the chat, and produced by me, Susie Murph, and is a product of the Planetary Science Institute, a 501c3 dedicated to exploring the solar system and beyond. We are here thanks to the contributions of people like you. Want to become a supporter of our show? Join us at patreon.com/CosmoQuestX. And now I'm going to switch over to the chat, and I completely forgot to transition through my slides again. Yep, that's a typical Monday. I will show you these slides real quick. There's some of the picture of the surface of the moon. I got busy reading and forgot. This is some of the laboratory at CERN where they are doing the studies with the antimatter. And you can see CERN is an interesting, complicated place with a lot of wires. But they're getting really good at containment. And then I will leave us here with the fantastic, wonderful, amazing Katherine Johnson. Go check out her autobiography. You can also go check out the fabulous book and movie, Hidden Figures. That's really where I learned about her. And I'm just really, really grateful that she was recognized and we learned about her contributions before she passed away, while she was still alive, and we were able to celebrate her. And thankfully, they've had her at many events in the past couple of years, especially when after the movie Hidden Figures came out, it really became much more of a media topic to talk about her and the other women that did things at NASA that we didn't know about. Because in the 60s, black women were just often not recognized for what they did. Women in general. I mean, anybody over there doing all of this amazing stuff, they are well worth your time to go and read. Katherine Johnson was an amazing woman, a fantastic role model. And so definitely go pick up this autobiography. I'm looking at it now and I'm going, okay, I need to go to Amazon later and order that. I'm sad we didn't get to meet her in person. I would have loved to. But I'm very, very, very grateful she got recognized before she passed. And I'm sure there will be a fantastic memorial for her coming up. You will probably start hearing a lot of things in the news as it comes up. And if NASA doesn't make a big deal about it, they should. Definitely. All right, let me switch now over to the chat, now that I've finally shown you the slides that I should have shown you. All right, I'm going to go over here to questions. The good news is Dr. Pamela is in our chat as Star Strider. So feel free to ask all your questions, because anything I don't know, she's here to answer, which is fabulous. Let me go back and look and see if anybody had any questions earlier. And please remember, if you can, in the chat to put that purple star inside the purple circle on your questions. That makes it really easy to spot, because the chat jumps around and it can be complicated for me to find them. So my apologies if I miss your question. All right, let's see. I saw one. Haney's Vorwerp says, have we learned about the soil on Mars? What have we learned about the soil on Mars from this? Is there an unexpected soil type? That's a good question. I don't know how much they have determined the composition, and And like the gym doctor said, soil is made of dead and living things, so they call it something else. It's not technically soil on Mars. Let's see. But we'll watch for Dr. Pamela's answer in here, and I'll read it back out here in just a second. Haney also asks, how many antiparticles would they need to see if antimatter is pulled by gravity instead of pushed? Well, that would be interesting. Right now, it looks like antimatter acts just like regular matter. It just doesn't want to be in the same place with regular matter. But it seems to be like the equal and opposite. Was that a CosmoQuest sign actually in CERN? No, I don't think so. I think that was just a sign that from a distance looked like CosmoQuest. Although, I don't know. Pamela, have you been to CERN before? Because I would really love to go. Oh, Pamela says she is currently fighting off Stella the pupper. So if she's slow answering questions, please be patient because, when your pet gets on top of you, that is, the universal reason for I can't do that right now. I have a pet on me. Mine is over here beside me going, rub my butt, please. My doggy. Jake is over here. Let's see. Another question. Haney says, Katherine Johnson's Lego is part of a 3-part set with 2 other important women in science. Yes, I would love to get that Lego set, but I don't need more stuff in my house. But it's a great set. And I love the fact that we have more and more great women that we know what their contribution is, so we have more role models. As the mom of a daughter who is going to be an engineer, always looking for good role models, definitely. And we call it soil because we're humans. This is true. So let's see. The soil on Mars is unexpectedly sandy, so we didn't expect it to be that way. And if you hear a little bitey noise, my dog is laying down next to me chewing on a blanket. Don't chew on the blanket. Do they use the term regolith? I believe so. I know that's what they use on Mars, so they probably use that on the moon, so they probably use that on Mars too. That's probably the proper term for the dirt or soil that we call it colloquially. Yeah. What would be the correct term? Regolith? Yes, planetary pan. That is what they would use. Regolith. Raj Luthra says, I hope a mission or spacecraft gets named after Katherine Johnson. So do I. I think that would definitely be worth it. And, if they do take the Artemis mission back to the moon, and they're making a big deal about it being, led by women and stuff, that would be a really good opportunity for them to do that. Have instead of Tranquility Base, have Katherine Johnson Base. I think that would be very appropriate for her to have a base on the moon because she was so very important to us getting there the first time. Yeah. One of my favorite things in the movie Hidden Figures was that, Neil Armstrong was like, I want her to do the math before it comes in. And that apparently was not a Hollywood detail they threw in. Apparently he really did say, I want Katherine to do the math for what we're doing. He did not want to do it until she had done the math on it because she was an amazing mathematician. My grandmother was not a mathematician, but she was an algebra teacher for 50 years. So I understand an amazing, smart, formidable woman who is excellent at mathematics. And I can just imagine Katherine Johnson was like several levels better than my grandmother. And she was intimidating and awesome and wonderful. So definitely. I hope she gets a monument and, some sort of big recognition. Because those guys wouldn't have gotten there without her. All right, let's see. The original moonlander had bowls on the legs because they didn't know how the regolith would be, Paranoid says. It's true. They didn't know exactly what the texture would be. Would it be light and fluffy? Would it be crumbly? We certainly didn't know it would be sharp and spiky the way it is, but it makes sense because the moon doesn't have the regular methods of weathering that we have here on Earth. it just has micrometeorites and stuff. And so moon dust is very pointy and rough and jagged, and is one of the biggest problems with going to the moon, dealing with the moon dust. Raj Luther says, with the news of antimatter, what would this mean for a matter-antimatter reactor and warp drive technology? That's a good question. I will wait and see if Dr. Pamela can answer that one, because that one is more into the theoretical drives, and that's exceeding my science quotient there. Paranor says, space is hard. Katherine Johnson was great at making it easier. Yes, she was. She was good. Planetary Pan recommends reading The Calculating Stars by Mary Robinette Kowal. Yes, that is a good book. I've got that one on my list. It's in my list that is way too long. But yes, I've heard multiple times that should be one on my list to read. Hanny's Vorwerp says, it's interesting that women were computers before men thought that was more interesting. Yeah, back in the day, doing the math on the paper or figuring it all out before we actually had mechanical computers and electronic computers and all that, they would farm that out to women because it was boring and they didn't want to do that. So they would send it off to a bunch of women in the back room. So women were known for being good at doing the math early on. I don't know why we think women aren't good at math now. It's just an unfortunate thing in the school system. I know my daughter is amazing at math, so I'm glad she's avoiding the stereotype and kicking butt out there. She was tutoring it this morning, as a matter of fact. Let's see. Northrop Grumman has established a pattern of naming their Cygnus spacecraft after deceased astronauts, and they might make a slight exception for Katherine, according to Kerbal-01, answering Raj Luthra. That's quite true. They probably would do that, and they're doing a lot with their Cygnus spacecraft right now, so I'm sure she would have a couple after that. But yeah, I want something bigger, because she was a significant contributor to the Apollo missions, to all of the history of American spaceflight. She was critical. Let's see what else. Starstrider says, we know that gravity works the same with both matter and antimatter. So gravity wouldn't push instead of pull. So it works the same. Keeper of Maps reminds us that computer was a job title, not an object. Very true. And now Pamela says that Stella is trying to steal her soul because she had to play a trick on her to get Stella off her lap so she could answer questions. Hanny's Vorwerp reminds us that Ada Lovelace would very much love to see how computers have progressed. This is very true. Yeah, Starstrider, did you have a chance to ask about that matter, antimatter drive, warp drive? You know, this is Star Trek engines. If we can figure out how matter and antimatter work, and would it be possible to contain it and actually be able to use that reaction of the matter and the antimatter destroying each other to power a spacecraft engine? Yeah, she says, I have no idea, and I'm going to leave that one there. I recommend that if you're interested in that, go Google some Star Trek sites, because they have had many, many, many discussions. I personally know a number of people who have probably had long debates and discussions on that, just like they have on the fact that transporters are often copy and death machines. Don't get me started. We had that debate this weekend. So yeah, if you're interested in matter, antimatter drives, go check out some Star Trek forums. And if I said Star Wars, oh God, just shoot me. Star Trek forums, and you will find a lot of people getting in there and talking theoretically about all of this stuff. Hanny's Vorwerp says, with AI, computers may be people who compute again, maybe in a few hundred years. Possible. Pew pew. I'm sorry. If I said Star Wars instead of Star Trek, it's only because it's a Monday and I'm tired. I do know the difference, I promise. I was a Trek fan. Guido Bieber says, one German word for computer is Rechner. Rechner, literally calculator. Paranor says hyperdrive is different, not warp drive. That's true. Hyperdrive is Star Wars. Warp drive is Star Trek. Too much magic in Star Wars. I'm kind of with you on that. I loved it when I was 7 and I went and saw the first movie in the theater. But then after that, I was a Star Trek girl. So that's where I'm standing. And yeah, I was at a sci-fi fantasy anime convention all weekend. So there were many debates like this. Definitely. Star Wars is perfectly fine fantasy. I agree. And I was very pleased with The Mandalorian. It was a good story. And it had fun characters. Paranor reminds me that hyperdrive is also Babylon 5. It's traveling between the layers of physical dimensions. Yes, I forgot that that's what they called it in Babylon 5 too. Yeah, we're big Babylon 5 people here as well. Hyperdrives are also in Stargate SG-1, Stargate Atlantis, and Stargate Universe. You were right, Raj Luthra. I'm tired today, but I love all these fandoms. Stargate SG-1 was one of my favorites, and Amanda Tapping playing Samantha Carter. She was one of my daughter's early role models, and I love her character as the smart scientist who could still get out there and kick butt. It was great. I need to go back and rewatch SG-1. It's about time for a rewatch. Yes, Amanda Tapping is awesome. Yeah, The Mandalorian is also a great Western. Yeah, it kind of is. It's got that feel. It's got that old Wild West feel for sure. Yeah, I love sci-fi, fantasy, all that stuff. Raj Luther says, in Star Trek, they have something similar to hyperdrives, the transwarp drives, and the quantum slipstream drives. This is true. And I am not remembering all this because I was good at my Star Trek trivia when I was in college. And it's been a while since I've been back. And I've only watched a couple of the episodes of Picard recently, so I have not gotten back into my Trek knowledge. But yes, I believe it. And the mycelium network, technically, Paranor says. Yeah, I don't remember that one. But that's fine. So yeah, go find out. Go to a Star Trek forum. Look that stuff up. There will be lots of actually very intelligent conversations about this stuff. That's in Discovery. Yeah, I haven't watched Discovery. Sorry. We haven't been really paying for CBS All Access except for during sports season. And yeah, mycelium network does sound like fungus. That's the first thing I thought was there's a fungus drive? Because yeah, that made me think of mushrooms. And huge tardigrades. Huge tardigrades. That's awesome. Well, does anybody else have any questions about the specific stories we did today? Those Mars. The fact that they're having trouble with the Mars probe digging under, it's not new. The trouble is not new. The creative solutions are new, though, and the fact that they don't give up. I mean, when you've got equipment there, but you're limited, you have to start kind of thinking outside of the box to figure out, okay, so we can do all of these things. Let's figure out how to make that work in the situation we've got it in with a 20-minute delay on communications and being able to send commands to the computer. Yeah, so they have to get creative. So our scientists and our engineers get very creative in making their distant hardware work. So that's pretty cool. Yeah, you love their grit. That's very, very true. And it's not just NASA. It's any of the space agencies. It's any of the private companies that are doing things that nobody's ever done before. You have to be flexible. You have to be able to think outside the box. You have to be able to do literally like the scene in Apollo 13 where the engineers come into the room and they dump the box of parts and they say, okay, this is what they've got up there. We have to make this work. You've got to be able to do that because space is hard. And you're going to have people that are going to get into situations you never anticipated. And they're going to have to figure out very creative solutions to get out of it. And those of us here back on Earth are going to have to be very creative to figure out ways to get them out of it. So we need smart thinkers. Hence I'm sending my kids to college. All right. What else, if anything, besides temperature is the Mars probe going to tell us? Rigel 16 asks. That's a good question. What else will the temperature underneath there tell us? That one's for Starstrider. So let's see what she answers. Paranor says, engineers are what makes the world stay together in every way. And I agree. They're the ones that figure out how the things work and keep them working. I was going to get my daughter a teenager that says, engineers, fixing problems you didn't know you had in ways you can't possibly understand. I thought that was a pretty good one because that's very true. That's their job, is to solve all the problems. Raj Luthra says, at what point are these FTL propulsions considered Einstein-Rosen bridges? Those are wormholes. It's a cool name for a wormhole. So, yeah. Yeah, I didn't come up with that t-shirt design. I've seen it, but I want to get that for Amanda at some point. It just wasn't a good color. I may have to go and make put that on my own color and pick it out for her. But yeah, Paranor, she would love that. So Dr. Pamela says, we're trying to figure out how much the temperature changes as a function of depth. It's hoped that the sunlight can heat the soil, creating a layer where liquid can exist. So there's your answer on that. The temperature tells us a lot. And we can also see what else is under there. What is the composition of what we're digging through? All right. I don't see any more questions. If you have, go ahead and send them. Otherwise, I'm going to start wrapping this up so I can get caught up on all the stuff I missed this weekend, doing stuff with Second Job, and get all this stuff out for y'all today, because I still have to edit the podcast, make the blog post, put that out, and also I will be putting out Friday's Astronomy Cast episode today on the podcast feed. So a lot of stuff to do on a Monday afternoon to catch up with. It's gross and rainy outside here today, so I'm not going outside. I'm staying right here at my computer. Thank you very much, Hanny. I am excited about it. It was a lot more fun. I mean, I thought it would be fun. It was more fun than I thought it would be, and that was good. And it wasn't uncomfortable to try to sell people stuff. I wasn't sure. I haven't done retail since I was in college. I had a retail job then. But it was fun. And, of course, talking to people at fantasy and sci-fi conventions is fun. I'll tell you, the costume of the year currently are Mandalorians. And we saw a team that came through, and you had a Mando and you had a Cara Dune, and they were carrying a baby Yoda, and the guy even had the voice modulator inside his helmet, so he sounded like him too. They were dead on. I will try to get over in our Discord and post some photos. If you want to join our Discord, look right behind the video here, or Paranor will probably pop it here into the chat now that he's heard me mention it. Feel free to join our Discord. You can talk to us there all the time. You can share the stuff. We've got tons of channels about anything you want to talk about, pretty much. Yes, there is the Discord. Please join us. I will try to pop some of the pictures of the cool stuff I saw this weekend into that Discord. And let's see, just checking to see what popped up. Discord popped up on my watch right then while I was mentioning it. And definitely check out our CosmoQuest website. Hopefully we will have new science projects, or at least revamped science projects, showing up before long, because I know Dr. Pamela and folks are doing a lot of coding, and we have a lot of volunteers that are coming in and helping us change over all of our software so we can get back to doing more citizen science. Now that we're done with Bennu, so many rocks. But there's so many more things out there for us to look at and map and figure out. And we know there's some of you out there that are dying to map some more stuff. So we're trying to get that ready for you. Well, all right. Once again, if you want to support us, join us over at patreon.com/CosmoQuestX. We would love to have your support. And you get access to all kinds of super cool stuff for being with us. And I actually send you the video version of this, the podcast version of this, the blog post of this. If you're one of our Patreons, I just send it straight to you, and it's pretty cool. Um, we are a production of the Planetary Science Institute, which is a super awesome, wonderful 501c3 nonprofit dedicating to celebrating the solar system and beyond. And they are wonderful to us, and we greatly appreciate their support. And please join us here again tomorrow, the rest of the week. All of our team, me, Dr. Pamela, and Annie, will be here various days of the week bringing you all kinds of stuff. I know Annie is planning to do another rocket roundup on Wednesday, so we'll see just how many things have launched this week, because I had no concept of how many things launched every week until we started doing that, and it was like, wow, rockets are going up all the time. So that's pretty amazing. Well, all right, I'm going to let you all go. Have a wonderful afternoon, evening, whatever the time it is where you are, and we will see you here tomorrow with more science.